Welcome to the Reasonable Southerner podcast. The South isn't all magnolias in the moonlight, but neither is it all racism and violence. We are just like you. My name is Frances Coleman. I share my insights about my life and yours. Oh, 'tis the season, that time of year in the Gulf South, when the days are hot and humid, and tropical waves wafting across the South Atlantic are watched with more interest by coastal residents than a bunch of kids tracking Santa across the North Pole could ever muster. It is the season, all right, hurricane season. As much as that other season means gifts under the tree, silly sweaters, and a firm rule that no presents shall be opened before Christmas morning, this season has rules too. That network of rules is called etiquette. The rules of this season are not written down, but devoted to a subset of guidelines that apply specifically to life in the coastal United States, the etiquette of hurricanes. For example, when coastal residents hear that a hurricane is on the way, we're quick to hope and pray that it goes somewhere else. It's rude to specify where the storm should go. Please God, let it hit Houston. But it's acceptable to pray that it either fizzles or strikes a lightly populated area, say Florida's Big Bend, the region east of Apalachicola that's home to more marshes, swamps, and rivers and seagrasses than people, or the stretch of Texas coast between Corpus Christi and Houston, which is home to a whole lot of cows and not a whole lot of humans. Some people would agree it's also fair to give weight to the number and severity of storms that have struck certain cities, meaning that New Orleans and more recently Lake Charles are off limits for a while, but the Atlantic coast is extremely eligible. Once a hurricane is headed your way, and in its aftermath, other etiquette rules will kick in, such as listen to evacuation orders and then gauge their relevance to you. If you live in a mobile home or an area that floods in a heavy dew, you always need to leave. If you want to evacuate to get away from the hassle of having no air conditioning or running water, don't clog up the road and prevent people who are escaping from real danger from getting away. Which means don't wait until the last minute for anything. If you're leaving, then pack up the car and go. If you need bottled water, gasoline, or cash, don't tarry or prepare to spend long hours in long lines if you do so. Ditto for obtaining the so-called re-entry passes, which you may need afterward if your neighborhood is badly damaged. If you wait until the day before the storm makes landfall, you may have to stand in a line that wraps around City Hall twice. You should also enjoy the day or night of the storm itself. You may be sitting in the last cool, dry air that you'll feel for a while. Eat something hot and drink something cold. After you have evacuated to a safe place, the storm is really not the hard part. The following weeks of complete disruption and a lot of hard, hot, and sweaty work is the hard part. And don't get in too big a hurry to clean up. You don't have to do it all in one day. There's going to be enough hurricane for everybody. Don't complain. Everybody wants his or her electricity restored, internet restored, and roads cleared quickly. But only amateurs and ill-mannered people complain about how long the process is taking. Crews are working 7 days a week, morning and night, cutting trees, restringing lines, and replacing broken utility poles. They are not sitting around in the break room playing double solitaire. And They're not individually deciding who will and who won't get their power and cable TV restored first. Leave them alone and they will get to your house in due time. You could also be good-humored about it all. Years ago, after Hurricane Ivan had made a real mess of our house, we waited patiently for power to be restored. I saw a crew from my native Louisiana, Cajun Power to be precise, pull up one day and energetically attack the down lines and poles. Who else would ask, "You don't mind if we splice this pole, do you, Shank?" No, I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all. So don't be rude to the people who are trying to help you. This includes, but isn't limited to, store clerks, rental agents, gas station attendants, and anyone who answers the phone when you're calling with a question. You are not the only person having problems, so don't act like you think you are. They have damaged roofs and power outages too, and their children are out of school too, in homes with no air conditioning or hot water, where the adults are cranky and the cell service is poor. If you need help with the etiquette of hurricanes, don't bother trying to look up the rules. Just ask somebody who has lived through several storms, and he or she can steer you in the right direction. You'll learn that a hurricane party does not mean getting with a bunch of pals and getting drunk during the storm. That went out of fashion when tales of the deadly party at the Richelieu Manor Apartments during Hurricane Camille were told and retold. That particular legend in hurricane lore turned out to be untrue, but it made a great story. A real hurricane party is when you and everyone else who has expensive meat thawing in the freezer after the storm breaks out the grills and starts cooking and eating. You'll make a lot of friends this way. Steak has a way of bringing people together. And remember, anybody can be a jerk, but being a jerk won't get you what you need any faster. It will just make people hate having to fool with you. Instead, be kind, friendly, considerate, helpful, and above all, patient. Before, during, and after a storm, these are the qualities that will help make life bearable until it's back to normal. You will discover how miserable a storm really is. You'll also discover that when properly approached and governed by these simple rules, a hurricane and the hot and nasty weeks that follow brings us all together in a way that only a common disaster can. I'm Frances Coleman. I've worked for newspapers for more than 45 years, from Texas to my native Louisiana, and finally to my home near Mobile, Alabama. I've been a reporter, an editorial writer, a columnist, and an editorial page editor. I've commented on the BBC, been a guest on the Rachel Maddow Show, and had my column distributed nationwide. If you like this podcast, please follow it. It's free. And even if you don't like it, I hope you will find it thought-provoking.